This piece of history is proudly supported by the Museum of Vancouver. Vancouver's story begins here. We're back at the Museum of Vancouver for a piece of Vancouver's history. Usually we do it in the basement, in the collection storage. Today we are upstairs looking at this wonderful exhibit that was put together by Kayla Isamura. And what is this?
Yeah, so the Suitcase project is a multimedia exhibition with photography, video, interviews, all focused on the experiences of fourth and fifth generation Japanese, Canadians, and Americans, who for most of them had ancestors who experienced the forced uprooting of Nikkei people along the West Coast in 1942.
Mm-hmm. And so you approached these people, all types of different people from the States, from Canada, and gave them the same notice that they would have got if they were getting sent to internment camp. Is that right?
Yeah.
And the assignment was to?
So the original intention was exploring this question on thinking about what our grandparents and great-grandparents, what would have packed with them during this time, but also thinking about what they would have left behind. So the photographs and the video were all taken in people's homes or sort of personal spaces. And they were given this notice, which was the notice that people would have received in 1942, telling them how to pack, often going to a place where like they didn't know where they were going, they didn't know what the conditions.
Where did this come from as an idea? How did you bring it to life? Because it's a traveling exhibit. It started at the Nikkei Museum in Burnaby, and it's here now. Mm-hmm. How did it start?
Yeah, so this was something I first took did all the photos and interviews in the beginning of 2018. So it's been quite a long time that the exhibit still stands and has been able to travel throughout Canada and also be on display in the US. And the project idea for me came from thinking about that question around what my grandparents and great-grandparents would have packed with them during the incarceration. But also, again, like I said earlier, so like what they would have left behind. For people, specifically Japanese Canadian history, people weren't allowed to return to the West Coast until 1949. So they were forced to move east of the Rocky Mountains or be exiled to Japan. And during the time that they were incarcerated, one of the big differences with Japanese Canadian history is that during the incarceration, the Canadian government seized and sold all of their property and possessions without their consent. So it really wasn't just thinking about this idea of like what people had to bring with them, but really thinking about like what people like lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a photo of a fleet of boats that always springs to my mind. That's like all of those boats got sold off by the government and you never got them back. And so what you left behind, and you weren't allowed to return until 4 years after the war, and then what do you have left when you get back? This exhibit is incredible. The amount of work that has gone into this is wild. You have so many great photos. She's the photographer as well of this, not just the curator. She's put this whole thing together. It's on until November at the Museum of Vancouver. Vancouver's history begins here. That's the show for this week. I hope you learned a lot. Big thanks to Masako Fukawa, Kayla Isamura, and Ryan Ellen, show director Derek Wong, Nina Savage, editor Arav, and everybody at employee-owned CHEK Media. Follow me on social media for more stories and check out my digest, the Now You Know BC Almanac at bcbob.ca. You can buy copies there for $25 and subscribe to my newsletter where I do regular giveaways. And of course, I'll see you here on CHEK next week when I'll tell you more stories about this great province of ours. And now you know BC.